Welcome back to your live continuing coverage, the official coverage of Toy Fair 2015 with the Toy Industry Association on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. I got to tell you, our next guest is really awesome. This is the movie he created. He's the director. He put it together. He's the producer. He's everything. This was his idea. It's called Plastic Galaxy. And why is that relevant to the toy industry? For many reasons. So we're going to have a great conversation. This is about the Star Wars toys. It's a documentary about the Star Wars toys. And I want to tell you a quick story real quick. Brian Stillman is the guy who put this together, and he's a good friend of mine. We've worked together for years. And we ran into him at Comic-Con when we did live coverage from Comic-Con, and we got to get this on, Brian. Is the film ready? And he said, it's ready. It's finally ready. Here it is. I have a copy. And we got it on. And he gave me a copy. And he said, here, this is for you. Watch it and tell me what you think. And it took till the plane ride home from CES to watch it because we were so busy. But I really wanted to watch it. And I didn't have the DVD on me, and the other problem is I don't have a DVD drive anymore or player. And so what I did was I found it on iTunes and downloaded it. And I said, I want to give Brian the $3, $4, whatever it was. I watched most of the movie on the plane till I fell asleep. Now, when I watch movies on the plane, what I do then is if I don't finish it, they just expire. I never get to watch them. I got home that night, and I made sure to carve out time to watch the rest of Plastic Galaxy because it was that good. Not because I know Brian, because it was that good. It's a phenomenal film. It is so interesting. And Brian, thank you so much for joining us. So the film is Plastic Galaxy. It took years for you to put together. Tell me about the story.
Years to put together and moments to make you fall asleep on the plane.
Oh, stop. I was so tired from doing wall-to-wall CES coverage. How could I have... I mean, I really wanted to get through it, and my eyes just couldn't stay open.
Nah, it's okay.
But I did go back and watch it. It's the first movie I've ever done that. Usually
Wow.
I just go, well, it'll expire.
Yeah, Avengers, screw that, who cares?
No, literally, that's how it goes. And I want to finish movies, and then people will be like, wasn't that a great ending to the movie? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I never saw that part. Yeah, great, yeah. So you tell me about it.
Plastic Galaxy, the story of Star Wars toys. It's the history of Star Wars toys. It's sort of about where they came from and how they became the biggest toy line in history and how they ended up changing the movie industry and the toy industry and why people still think they're cool today. You know, why people are still attracted to them today.
So before Star Wars toys, explain what happened in the toy licensing game for movies.
There wasn't a lot of toy licensing for movies before Star Wars. The sort of common wisdom at the time was because movies aren't in theaters for very long, they don't become these great marketing tools for the toy line. So the toy line doesn't really get the boost from movies. So there's just no point in really doing it. When Star Wars came out, you know, they had made a deal with a mid-tier company called Kenner Toys out of Cincinnati, and this toy line came out on the heels of Star Wars, and because Star Wars was in the movie theaters for a year, Star Wars toys became huge. It became huge for a lot of reasons, not just because of that. But what it showed the toy industry was that there was a sort of viable opportunity for licensing, for money making, for greater marketing angles in toys.
Jenny in the chat room is watching. He said he's got a migraine, but he wanted to see this. He just had to hear about this. He's a huge Star Wars fan. He's got the R2-D2 robot that moves and lights up in Finland. He's watching from Finland.
Wow.
He sent us,
hey, man.
This week he sent us selfies with the R2-D2 and in the snow and everything in Finland.
Nice.
And he thinks this is so interesting. Wow, Star Wars toys. This is amazing. Star Wars story. Now, here's the thing I find most interesting about it is Kenner was the only company that decided to take it on. They went to the big boys.
Yeah.
And the funny part is we had somebody on yesterday who's a licensing expert, somehow thinks that Hasbro was the original licensor, but it's actually Kenner.
It's Kenner.
Kenner was a little mom and pop figurine company.
Well, no. So Kenner, no, they were not that small.
But I mean, they weren't huge.
Well, they had Play-Doh.
Yeah.
They had Easy Bake Oven.
Sure.
They had been around since the 40s.
But they weren't, again, they
were
weren't.
not Hasbro.
Right.
They were not Mattel. They were not some of the other. Mego was a big company at the time. And Lucasfilm and Fox went around to those companies and they passed. There was one of the people involved in the licensing was a man named Charles Lippincott, and he went around and helped meet with people. And for whatever reason, they all passed on it. And Kenner sort of, like I said, this sort of mid-tier company. The thing that made Kenner, I think, attractive to Lucasfilm and all them was they had some experience with licensing. They had the $6 Million Man toy. Now, that was connected to a TV show with Lee Majors, the Bionic Man. Everyone, everyone remembers $6 Million Man. And I'm never doing that again.
I loved it. They almost as good as D. Wallace screaming.
Yes, almost. I'm not going to do that either. But Kenner had some experience with licensing, with television, so they felt like they could maybe do something with this. They recognized Bernie Loomis, who was the president of Kenner at the time. He said it had a toyetic appeal to it, and he could sort of recognize that something was going on that made it worthwhile.
Now, the story of how this happens, it all goes down like secretly, quietly, and quickly, and then they get overwhelmed by the toys, is unbelievable, but they couldn't make the toys fast enough to ship.
No, they really couldn't. Christmas is obviously an important time for toy companies. Star Wars came out in May of 1977, and they realized there was not enough time to design and bring these toys to the market. So what they did was, for Christmas, a guy named Ed Schiffman, who we interview in the film, he had this brilliant idea to come up with an early bird giveaway. It was called the Early Bird Redemption Program, where on Christmas, for Christmas, you bought what was essentially an empty cardboard box. And in this box were some stickers and a membership card to like a fan club, but also a coupon that you could mail in and redeem for 4 figures when they were available. And so they sold a couple 100,000 of these things, and kids filled out their little coupon and mailed it back to Kenner. And then in February and March, they finally got the first figures. They were Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, and R2-D2. And then the early bird set the cardboard thing you bought could open up and be used as a display stand. So you also got some little pegs to stick the figures to that. So it was really frankly, it was a ballsy move. No one had done anything like that before. And it put Bernie Loomis, it's one of the things that put Bernie Loomis into the Toy Hall of Fame. In the old Toy Fair building, the old toy building on Broadway, there was a plaque with people who are in this, and that includes good old Bernie.
Unbelievable. I love how you interview everybody. You have toys in the movie that never made it to see the light of day as well, the prototypes, stuff like that. What is your favorite Star Wars toy ever?
That's such a difficult question. They're all really cool. But having been asked that many times, I've narrowed it down. I love the original Luke Skywalker figure, which is the one that's kind of on the box here. These are my toys. I love the Luke Skywalker figure. I love the R2-D2 figure. And I love, they made a toy called the Imperial Troop Transport, which never appeared in the movie. It was a vehicle that you could put a bunch of figures in and drive it around, and it had little buttons on it. When you press the buttons, it talked. It had this sort of advanced technology in it. It had actually been around since the 50s, a tiny little record. And when you press the button, the little record spins, and it says different lines from the movie and different sound effects and stuff. And as a kid, that blew me away. I mean, you could have the Luke Skywalker figure and be like, oh, it's kind of like I got Luke. But if I have a thing that talks, that's like having the actual characters from the movie in your bedroom as a kid, and that's like mind-blowing.
Especially back then. And I had R2-D2 was probably my favorite. I had the R2-D2 and said to admit that somehow I ripped the legs off somehow. I don't know.
A lot of those toys got destroyed by kids.
Yeah. What about your next project? I mean, this film is so amazing. I'm serious. There aren't many documentaries that I've seen, and I love documentaries, where I go, I can't wait to see what that filmmaker makes next. I can't wait to see what you make next.
Yeah. Well, it's not a sequel to this. I have a lot of people ask if we're going to do a sequel to Plastic Galaxy.
How could you do a sequel? I mean,
well, the truth is the movie gets into the vintage story a lot. But Star Wars, in 95, Hasbro bought Kenner, and they picked up the license, and almost ever since, Hasbro has been producing Star Wars toys. So it's a story that didn't end. My movie sort of touches on that, but doesn't dig into just the volume of Star Wars stuff that's come out since then. So there's certainly room for more. I just am not going to be the one to do it. We do have some other projects coming forward. I can't really get into them yet. We've just started working on another film. We're in that sort of pre-production research stage, so I don't want to talk about it too much.
Oh, I can't wait.
But
so
it
excited.
is kind of pop culturally related.
Please tell me it's not going to take like 5 years.
No, it will not. We're looking at probably a year for shooting and production, and then hopefully not too long to edit.
You've had some serious success with this. I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy for you. I think it's terrific.
Thank
I
you.
remember watching cuts of the movie in your apartment years ago,
Yep.
and also seeing all your toys. So you're really into the toy game. You've got some really collectible toys, and you got the ray gun.
Yeah. I do collect Star Wars toys, but I also collect vintage robots and ray guns from kind of the golden age of toys, which was like 30s, 40s, and 50s. So a lot of stuff from back then, which actually I brought a little bit of show and tell for you. This is an exhibitor's guide to Toy Fair from 1953.
1953 Exhibitor's Guide to Toy Fair.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
amazing.
the old toy building on 200 Broadway. A lot of companies would have permanent showrooms and stuff set up, so they'd be there all year. So companies like Marx and Ideal, Kenner would have been there back in the day. All these companies, a lot of which aren't around anymore. That is the sort of guide you would have. Very different than what we have today, the big full-color glossy things.
Pretty amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And that building there's a Shake Shack across the street.
There's a Shake Shack across
the
the street, and now it's Eaterly, the big Italian food
Yeah, it's
thing.
a food market.
Yeah, but I'd been there. I'd gone to the old toy fairs. Not that old, obviously,
Yeah.
but back in the early 2000s and 90s, I interviewed Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne at Toy Fair.
Yeah, when McFarlane Toys was putting out rock and roll figures. They did Ozzy Osbourne, they did Iron Maiden. So I interviewed Bruce Dickinson, the singer from Iron Maiden, and Ozzy Osbourne. It was an unusual experience.
I could imagine. What was Ozzy like? It's one guy I've never interviewed.
He was pretty chill.
Yeah.
This was before
The show?
I think it was right before the show.
Okay.
Or maybe the show had just started, but obviously he was still Ozzy Osbourne.
Right.
He's pretty short, shorter than I thought he'd be.
Wow.
But I'm really short, so
Yeah.
it's a little hard to tell. But he was nice. He was nice.
And did he mumble a lot, or could you
No,
understand
he
him?
wasn't. He was pretty straightforward and
Yeah?
on the ball. Yeah.
He got it.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite Ozzy song? You look like a guy who likes Ozzy. I'm an Ozzy. I would warm up to play hockey to Crazy Train.
Yeah, it's cliche, but I really do love Crazy Train. I love that whole first solo record.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. And Sabbath, kind of anything that he did was gold.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you seen at Toy Fair that you are impressed by so far?
I haven't had a lot of time to poke around, but there have been a lot of photos coming out. And actually, one of the things I really want to see is a company called Warpo. They've set up at the Diamond booth. They have a 12-inch Cthulhu figure that they made as part of their Legends of Cthulhu line. That was a Kickstarter campaign they did, and I contributed to the Kickstarter campaign to get the 4 figures that they released, and they're done in a very retro style.
You're going to collect them now.
I'm
kidding.
Yeah, probably. But I want to go see this 12-inch model, the sculpt, I guess they have,
Nice.
that's going into production.
What was your favorite toy growing up?
It's hard to say because you go through stages. At one point, it was Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
And then you get a little older, and then G.I. Joe came out and Transformers, and I love G.I. Joe. I love Transformers.
But if there was one that you could think of that just comes to your tip of your tongue when I say, "What's your favorite toy?"
Today, looking back on them, it'd be the Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
It'd be that Luke figure.
How did you think of doing this film? I mean,
I'm a collector. I'm a Star Wars collector, and I'm the type of collector who likes to know as much about the stuff he collects as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I read all these different books, the best being From Concept to Screen to Collectible by Steve Sansweet. And that really laid out how they made the movie and then how that led to the merchandising and everything else. And I said, well, there has to be a movie. There has to be a documentary. These toys are 30-something years old. And I looked around, and there wasn't one. And I said, well, okay, this is what I do for a living, so I guess I'll do it myself.
a lot of perseverance to do it. I know it wasn't easy. You're keeping CJ's kids in the chat room somewhat occupied because they have the day off for President's Day.
All right.
And so thank you for that. I guess.
I want to be someone's babysitter. That's actually a thing to check off because my mom would be stuck doing stuff, so I'd watch TV. So that's a big part of my childhood.
There you go.
So that's good.
All right. So I'll tell you what. race me here.
All right.
Bring back some fun memories. You know how to do this, right?
Yeah, what color am I?
So you're going to be the dark car. I'm going to be the white car.
Okay,
And
all right.
this is the scale electric set. And on 3, we're going to go.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. 1, 2.
Yeah, I'm cheating.
Oh, you definitely cheated. Forget about 3.
We're friends. We're not that good.
Oh,
no.
we both went off the track at the same time.
Yeah,
that's
see,
like a
that's
draw.
what you get for cheating. That's what I get for cheating.
Yeah, what did I do wrong?
I think that means you had the moral. You win, I think, because we sort of died at the same place, and I was cheating. So I'll give this one to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to give this to you. Plastic Galaxy. It's on iTunes. It's everywhere, but iTunes, that's how I like to do it. Plastic Galaxy, plasticgalaxythemovie.com. Is that correct?
PlasticGalaxyMovie.com.
PlasticGalaxyMovie.com.
Yes. We don't believe in articles.
PlasticGalaxyMovie.com.
No thes.
PlasticGalaxyMovie.com. iTunes, baby. iTunes, or however you'd like to do it, but PlasticGalaxyMovie.com. I'm telling you, it's amazing. You will thank me. You will not be bored. You will not fall asleep. You will love this. You will watch it, and you will thank me, and you will get so much information. It's really great. PlasticGalaxyMovie.com and iTunes. One last question. Has anybody from Kenner or from Lucas gotten in touch with you?
Not since I did it. Well, no. One of the former Kenner employees dropped me a line, and he said that he had seen the movie, he thought it was great, and he wished that he had known about it, like when I was filming it, because he would have loved to have been on it. And I said, I wish I knew about you too.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find those guys, you know.
And what about Hasbro? Have they said, hey, let's do?
No, I haven't really heard from Hasbro. We had reached out to them, and it sort of, I think it got caught up in just the kind of channels of communication, because they had expressed some interest when I talked to them, and then it kind of fell apart. But I think it just was that whole communication thing gets weird sometimes.
All right, well,
They're a big company.
Sweeney, Eric, DP, Digital Phil, and Jenny have all just told me they downloaded. They are in the process of downloading Plastic Galaxy.
Thank you very much.
So it is PlasticGalaxyMovie.com, but you go to iTunes, you get it. Plastic Galaxy is the movie. It's phenomenal. I wrote you a nice note afterwards. This is not a made-for-TV thing. This is legit. That's how I do it. It's only the truth. I legitimately believe in this and love it. We'll be back with a whole lot more from Toy Fair 2015, your official live continuing coverage with the TIA, Toy Industry Association, on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Thank you guys for watching, for being in the chat room, for making this special, because you make it special. We'll be back with a whole lot more right after this. Don't forget to tap your neighbor on the shoulder, send a text and an email. Tell everybody, watch BeTerrific right now. We want to make this the biggest audience ever. We want to keep it growing, and we want to spread the good vibes and make sure that everyone knows that positive content is wanted and coming, and you want to be inspired. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Start tweeting, start texting, start emailing, start tapping. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.